Hello, I'm Pastor Randy, pastor of Carmi First United Methodist Church and Concord United Methodist Church. This past Sunday, we celebrated Palm Sunday as Jesus rode into Jerusalem on a donkey with palm branches waving. And then the scripture that I want to read occurs the next day. In fact, it says the next day. This is from Mark chapter 11, beginning with verse 15. So, the next day, on reaching Jerusalem, Jesus entered the temple area and began driving out those who were buying and selling. He overturned the tables of the money changers and the benches of those selling doves, and would not allow anyone to carry merchandise through the temple courts. And as he taught them, he said, "Is it not written, 'My house will be called a house of prayer for all nations'? But you have made it a den of thieves." The chief priests and the teachers of the law heard this and began looking for a way to kill him, for they feared him, because the whole crowd was amazed at his teaching. This is God's word. Jesus came into the temple and he took care of business. For you see, the money changers and the buyers and the sellers were cheating the people. And you ask, how were they cheating the people? You see, when worshipers would come to the temple, they needed to pay a temple tax. Now, the temple tax usually equaled about 2 days' wages of a normal laborer. And when they came to the temple, they would have to take their common currency and change it to the temple currency. So that's what they were doing. The money changers were there to do that. And then they also had to buy animals for sacrifice. And so they would purchase those animals there. And so two things were going on that Jesus was troubled about. One was where they were doing it. It was in the court of the Gentiles. And so they had all their business set up right where the Gentiles would be worshiping. And that angered Jesus. Plus, when they changed the money, they weren't giving a fair exchange. And they were profiting from ways in which they shouldn't be. And when they were buying or selling the animals, they were inflating the price of the animals to the people. And so this angered Jesus. He saw this injustice and he decided to do something about it. And so he took a cord and he made a whip and he began to overturn the tables and the benches. Jesus made a mess, but he got his point across. So, what does this story tell us about Jesus? One, Jesus could express anger appropriately. It's not wrong to be angry, but it should be appropriate anger. It should be anger over an injustice. And that's what Jesus was doing. Also, we see that Jesus wasn't afraid to confront a wrongdoing. He wasn't afraid to call a spade and to let people know when injustice was occurring. Jesus did that. Let me ask you a question. What makes you angry? Do you get angry over injustices in our world? Sometimes we just get used to seeing things that we don't even think about it. I used to watch a cartoon called Popeye. Maybe you used to watch it too. And Popeye had a girlfriend named Olive Oyl. And Brutus was always trying to take advantage of Olive Oyl, and Popeye would get angry. And finally, Popeye had enough. And this is what he would say: "I can't stand it. I can't stand it no more." And then he would pop out that spinach and eat it, and then he would get the strength to defend Olive Oyl and take care of things. I've heard it said this way, that when we see things that are happening that are wrong, we need to feel a holy discontent. There needs to be something inside of us that just boils enough to do something about it. What does it take for you or me to get involved and take action? Is it when our own interests are threatened? Sometimes we would get involved if that would happen. A business interest, or somebody we cared about was being taken advantage of. Maybe when a friend or a family member asks us to be involved, we might get involved, and that's okay. Maybe when a moral principle I believed in was at stake, then I might get involved. How about this? How about when there's an opportunity for me to make a difference? And even believe that God is asking me to take action. That's a great time to get involved, and I encourage you to do. Those are good motivations to get involved when you see an injustice or a problem or a need. I believe what Jesus did in the temple, though it was looked upon in disdain, was the most loving and appropriate thing to do. You see, love is a verb of action. Love sometimes calls us to get involved. 1 John 3:16 and following says this: "For we know what real love is, because Jesus gave up his life for us. So we ought also to give up our lives for our brothers and sisters. If someone has enough money and to live well, and then sees his brother or sister in need, but shows no compassion, how can God's love be in that person?" Dear children, let us not love merely in word or what we say to each other, but let love be shown in truth by our actions. This is what God is asking for you and for me. Now, I'm not sure what that looks like in this time of COVID-19 and staying at home. Maybe that verb of action, that love, is just calling somebody because they may be lonely. They need a word of encouragement or to say thank you. But as Jesus has given us the example, we don't need to sit by when love calls us to go to action. I encourage you to do that tonight. Thank you so much.